Daniel's boots crunched against the frozen mud of Outpost Zeta 7, a forgotten refugee settlement on the edge of the Kepler void. He'd been a humanitarian coordinator for the Terran Relief Corps for 6 years now, long enough to recognize despair in 1,000 different languages. The camp housed roughly 40,000 souls, survivors of the Viridian cluster's collapse when their star system had been consumed by an artificially induced supernova, collateral damage in a war between powers humans barely understood. The girl caught his attention during the evening meal distribution. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old, with unusual silver-white hair and eyes that reflected light like polished obsidian. While other children fought and scrambled for their nutrient packs, she sat alone, sketching geometric patterns in the dirt with a broken stylus. The patterns were oddly hypnotic complex fractals that seemed to shift and breathe when Daniel looked at them directly. "Hey there." Daniel knelt beside her, offering a chocolate bar from his personal stash. "What's your name?" The girl looked up, and for a moment, Daniel felt as if she was seeing through him, past him, into dimensions he couldn't perceive. "Melissa," she said softly, her accent carrying harmonics no human throat should produce. Over the following weeks, Daniel became her unofficial guardian. Melissa was different from the other refugee children. She never got sick despite the camp's appalling sanitation. She could predict weather changes hours in advance. Once, when a supply drone malfunctioned and plummeted toward the mess tent, she'd simply looked at it and the machine had frozen mid-air, hovering impossibly until technicians could secure it. Daniel had filed reports, of course, but in a galaxy where humans were the newest spacefaring species, strange abilities weren't uncommon among alien refugees. His superiors assumed she was some minor, psionic variant and moved on to more pressing crises. Everything changed the day the ships arrived. They appeared without warning, 3 massive dreadnoughts that made Earth's largest vessels look like children's toys. They were sleek and organic, seeming to be grown rather than built, their hulls shifting with colors that hurt to observe. The lead ship broadcast on all frequencies in flawless galactic standard. "We seek the luminary Melissa Tarvesh, rightful Empress of the Celestial Dominion. Surrender her, and your settlement will be spared." Panic erupted. Camp administrators scrambled to identify this Melissa Tarvesh, while frightened refugees pointed fingers at anyone who looked remotely unusual. Daniel's blood ran cold as he realized the truth. He found Melissa in their usual spot, still drawing her impossible patterns. "They're here for you," he said gently. "Aren't they?" Melissa nodded, and suddenly she seemed far older than her small frame suggested. "My family ruled 3,000 systems. Daniel, we maintained the quantum lattice that allows faster-than-light travel throughout this galactic arm. Then came the usurper, my Uncle Krail. He murdered my parents, my siblings, everyone with a claim to the throne. I was smuggled away by a loyal retainer who died getting me to the refugee ships fleeing Viridian. Why hide here? Why not reveal yourself?" "Because I'm not ready." Melissa's voice cracked, revealing the frightened child beneath the imperial bearing. "The lattice key is encoded in my genetic structure. Whoever controls me controls galactic commerce, communication, everything. Krail wants to use that power to wage eternal war. But I'm just a child, Daniel. I don't know how to fight him. I don't know how to be an empress." The camp's defense systems, primitive by galactic standards, were powering up uselessly. The dreadnoughts could vaporize the entire settlement without scratching their shields. Daniel's mind raced. Humanity's greatest asset had always been our unpredictability, our refusal to accept impossible situations. "Then we don't fight," Daniel said, pulling out his communicator. "We negotiate, and we use the one thing that makes humans dangerous. We're really good at buying time." Daniel marched to the communications center and opened a channel to the lead dreadnought. "This is Daniel Chen, Tehran Relief Corps. I'm authorized to negotiate on behalf of the child you're seeking." The voice that responded was cold and mechanical. "You have no authority here, human. Surrender the luminary, or 40,000 beings die." "See, that's where you're wrong," Daniel said, his heart pounding but his voice steady. "Because according to Galactic Treaty 447, subsection 12, this refugee camp is sovereign Terran territory. Any military action here is an act of war against Earth, and while we might be primitive, we're also the most stubborn species in this galaxy. We held off the Zentari at Proxima despite being outgunned 50-1. You really want to see what we do when defending our own soil?" There was a long pause. "Your bluff is transparent. Human, try me," Daniel said. "Or better yet, let's talk about alternatives. You want the luminary. She needs training, protection, and time to grow into her role. What if we arrange a solution that serves everyone's interests?" The negotiation lasted 6 hours. Daniel proposed that Melissa remain under Terran protection while receiving education from loyalist Dominion advisors. When she came of age, she would reclaim her throne, but with human allies who would ensure the Dominion never again threatened smaller species. It was audacious, probably insane, but it gave Krail's forces pause. Finally, a different voice came through, older, wearier. "I am Admiral Fentok, last of the Empress's loyal fleet commanders. If the human speaks truth, if you would shelter our luminary until she's ready to rule, we would be honored to accept your alliance." The dreadnoughts withdrew, but not before depositing a contingent of Dominion guardians and educators. Melissa would grow up on Earth, learning to be both human and Empress, ordinary and extraordinary. As the ships disappeared into quantum space, Melissa hugged Daniel tightly. "Why did you do this? You could have surrendered me and saved everyone." Daniel smiled, ruffling her silver hair. "Because that's what humans do, kid. We find impossible problems and we solve them anyway. Besides, you're not just an Empress. You're a scared little girl who needed someone to stand up for her. That's something I understand." In the years that followed, Melissa would indeed reclaim her throne, and humanity would gain its first true ally among the galactic powers. But that night, in a freezing refugee camp on the edge of nowhere, a human coordinator and a lost Empress simply shared hot chocolate and watched the friends and family in the way that mattered most.